VALOR MORTIS is an upcoming fun mix of Dark Souls and Bioshock gameplay that you do not want to miss out on. And in this video, I want to talk about my hands-on impressions with the game, because recently I tried out the open playtest via Steam, which I think is still available right now, at least at the time I was recording of the video. But this was such a blast to check out. Overall, the final boss of the demo, a bit annoying, but honestly very fair overall in terms of what they were going for and the design in terms of the structure of the fight. More on that later. But in case you don't know, the team at one more level, the same devs of Ghost Runner 1 and 2, they launched a public pre-alpha playtest for VALOR MORTIS, their upcoming first-person action RPG. Players can now experience the eerie mix of steampunk, horror, and relentless combat that defines this ambitious new project. And of course, the playtest is meant to gather community feedback and fine-tune the game before release. It definitely needs some adjustments, more on that later. So I played this, and it includes an introductory chapter that reveals the tone of the story, gives players a taste, the kind of boss fights and world design the studio is aiming for. And the demo itself, the playtest, only allows you to go up to level 10, so you got to be a little bit careful in terms of what your build's going for. I ended up building into like health mostly. I think I maxed out health. I almost maxed out stamina, and I did go into a little bit of like the parry. I think at 2 or so points in that, to do extra parry damage when you parry. In terms of the lore of the game that's set up here in the world, in case you don't know, VALOR MORTIS is set in an alternate 19th century Europe, and it follows the character William, a soldier brought back to life after falling in battle. So, as you would expect here in the beginning, as you've probably been watching already in this video, William wakes up in a devastated land, consumed by plague and despair. He's got all these dead bodies around, things like that. He's confused. As this character, you're going through the game here and exploring, and you're seeing your fellow like soldiers or countrymen and things like that, and they're twisted, they've been changed, and you're fighting them, and he's just like, what's going on? We got the same colors and things like that. And all the while you have Napoleon, for whatever reason, talking to you like in your head, or you can hear him somehow, and he's just talking to you throughout the demo here, this playtest, as you're making progress. And actually, let me correct myself on something here, because the playtest actually is already over with by the time this video goes up, because it ended on October 13th. I just double checked. So unfortunately, it's no longer available. But this is still an exciting, upcoming, new kind of Souls like that blends atmosphere, rhythm, and tension. And I really did enjoy it. The overall controls felt good. One thing that is a bit annoying, though, that it's not like a Souls-like or traditional Souls-like, is how you attack with your melee, because they have it set where you press the right trigger or R2 for light attack. You press that, but then you hold it down for heavy attack, where it doesn't do the R1 for the light and then the R2 or right trigger for the heavy, which is a little bit weird in a sense, considering you're trying to go for a Souls-like. Nonetheless, though, the combat doesn't take too long for me to get used to. You can do a backstab as well in the game. The environments look pretty cool. Overall, the visuals are pretty good in this game and look awesome. And it kind of takes you through the basic, gameplay mechanics and loops here, as far as showing you how to, fight. Tells you how to parry. You eventually will find and pick up a pistol that you can wield in your left hand, and you can use that as well in combat against certain enemies, as well as to knock down a tree at one point to get across. Then what really helps make this feel like a mix of Bioshock is the fact that during this demo, pre-alpha demo that is, you pick up a fire magic ability and essentially have a hand that can do a flamethrower type of magic power, and you can swap between that and the pistol. The fire ability is called Fire Transmutation, and it consumes this purple bar called Neptoglobin. So you have your regular health bar, which is red. You got the purple bar for essentially, your magic. You got the flask you can use to heal with. There is a rekindler, which essentially is the bonfire of the game as well. You can use that to upgrade. It saves, it resets enemy spawns as well too. But in the demo itself, I couldn't travel anything like that. I can only upgrade. When it comes to your stats in this game, you have your maximum health, you have your maximum Neptoglobin, the neptoglobin extraction, maximum endurance, endurance regeneration, and that's it as of right now. Things could change in the future. This is still in development, but it just seems very simplified, where it's just, you know, your health, your neptoglobin, and your endurance. That's it in terms of what stats are related to. There are these like weird balls or whatever in certain parts of the area where you shoot them and you unlock like some more lore. It's like blue aura or cloud, and it shows like a little bit of a sort of flashback, I guess you can say, to what actually happened. And you got a little bit of variety of enemies in here too, from your regular soldier that you can parry to these soldiers that'll be marksmen and shoot you from afar, so you gotta be careful about that. To this other type of soldier where they had this weird, like, I guess their heart sticking out. I don't know if it's necessarily their heart, but you can use a gun to shoot it and does a lot of damage to them. There are also soldiers where they do this red unblockable attack, so essentially you got to dodge that, like dash dodge that away, and if you do it at the right time, you essentially can do like a counter move, like time slows down a bit and you can just counter their attack. And I did die a few times here, probably without Dino. The plate itself probably went like maybe 35-40 minutes. Now the boss fight, the final boss fight, definitely took me a bit here to defeat, but it was a fun boss fight overall. I got used to it and I figured out some stuff here when it comes to how to, you know, not necessarily manipulate it, but just be patient with this boss, understand its movements and patterns. I learned you had to be overall super patient, but also like, I would say really aggressive first phase, but even more aggressive second phase, but more like dodging, like kind of going in and out, where you're just doing these hit and run type of tactics. Very cool design overall, though. Very creepy. Attacks for the most part easy to read, things like that. So I talked about a lot of positives here, like the gameplay feels good, the visuals are good overall, right? Didn't really have any tech issues or performance issues with this game outside of the boss fight itself, because when you went to second phase, there's a little bit of stutters, and I noticed the quality overall and visuals was down during the boss fight and somewhat during like the transition there compared to the other part of the demo. But from a gameplay perspective, though, overall good, and technical standpoint, overall good, despite a little bit of, you know, lag. And there's some weird like input, I think, delay that needs to be adjusted, or maybe just more the parry window needs to be adjusted, because there were times I was fighting this boss specifically and I would parry and I would do the parry the same way I did before, like in terms of timing, and it would not parry. And that was happening quite regularly against the boss fight in particular. So I think the devs need to work on adjusting the parry window, maybe make it a little bit more generous, not by much by any means. Don't you know, extend it by too much, because for the most part it is good where it's at. It's just something's off with the input, or at least the window a bit. So I think it needs to be just adjusted slightly. The fight itself is cool though, because you got a little bit of options here where you can use fire to essentially build up fire damage to have it burn the boss for a little bit. You also are working on its stamina, where you're doing attacks and the parries, and you essentially, once you fill that up, it goes into this like down state, and then you can do essentially a critical move. But even before that, I found like, hey, let me do a little bit of magic attack, or I can shoot a bit, then go into like this critical strike or hit, and that does a good chunk of damage. That's essentially the strategy. You gotta use that yellow bar. I guess it's like its stamina or posture bar in a sense. Build that up, so you break it down, dodge its attacks appropriately, parry some of its attacks appropriately, and, you know, take it down. And it has these like weird balls or like things on its body you can shoot to essentially, where it drops more of the neptoglobin if you're into that and want to like replenish your magic and use that again. But honestly, you get it built back up through melee attacks as well too, so you don't necessarily have to do that. And of course, much like a Souls-like or Souls game, you have essentially your souls you got to get back once you do die. Another thing I do like about this game is that when you do die outside like a boss door, basically, or boss area, you don't have to like go inside to get your stuff back. They are taking the Liza P approach, where basically the souls are outside of the boss area or wall, whatever, and you pick them up right there, and that way you go in with your stuff, so you don't have to worry about trying to find them during the boss fight somewhere on the battlefield. And I think that's gonna about wrap it up in terms of my impressions so far. I think it's really cool. It was a lot of fun. I'm definitely keeping this on my radar, and I think you should too if you're a Souls-like fan. And I was a little skeptical, a little worried, like, how are they gonna do a first-person Souls-like, you know, in a AA or even AAA type of quality, type of like overall game feel? And it actually works pretty well with a little bit of Bioshock elements to it. So I'm definitely happy. Just need some tweaking, need some more polish, of course. It is a pre-alpha demo, so I didn't expect it to, you know, run fabulous overall. But luckily, it didn't really have much in terms of like tech issues, performance issues, or, you know, gameplay mechanic issues. So very little in that regard. And yeah, I think that it's something that's going to be really great when it comes out next year. It's slated for 2026. Not sure when it's going to come out. Hopefully it stays away from GTA 6 though. Like, either it better come out, you know, within the first 3 months, or even April, a month before GTA 6, or it's just going to come out maybe in the summer or fall after GTA 6 comes out. We'll see what happens though. But I'll definitely keep you guys updated on this game with any other news I find out about it. And I hope you enjoyed this. If you did and learned something, I would appreciate a thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you guys in the next video.